Hello and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2021-22 season. My name is Dan and welcome to the Gameweek 36 edition of the 100 Experts video, the video where we look at the transfer moves, the captaincy decisions and the chip moves by 100 FPL community experts and basically see what they're up to so we can try and find out some trends, some like popular moves, try and figure out what on earth we should be doing with our teams based on what a lot of other people seem to be doing who know their stuff. That's how it works. It's all good stuff. My favorite video of the week, and let me tell you guys, this week is a good one. It has taken me a long time to put the information, the data together for this one, just because there are just so many transfers going around. People are taking -4s, -8s, -12s, so many transfers going around right now. So we've got so much good data for you today. So hopefully you do enjoy this one. Please do leave a like, because as I say, it's taken a long time to put this one together, and do subscribe if you're new around here as well. Without further ado, guys, let's meet the 100 experts that took part this week and very kindly delivered their data to us. So here they are on screen now, all 100 names of the people who very kindly told me what they're up to this week, what transfer moves they're making, what chips they're using, and what captain they're using as well. We're going to put it all together and we're going to find out what the popular moves are, who the popular captains are, what chips you guys should potentially be using this week as well. It's all here in one video, and yeah, honestly, this is a really good one. I wouldn't just say that, it really is a good one. So first of all, guys, let's have a look at some of the more general trends. So, of our 100 expert managers, 17% of them are making one transfer, 36% of them are making two transfers, 24% are making three transfers. That's definitely the highest I have seen, that one. 24% making three transfers. That is higher than it's been all season, and 11%. Now, this really is mad. I think the highest we've seen before this game week is maybe 3% making four transfers. This week, 11% are making four transfers. So this is by far the most transfers I have seen being made by FPL managers, by expert FPL managers in 1 week. It really is crazy. So what we are basically seeing here, guys, is this is the week to go crazy. There are so many -4s, -8s, -12s being taken. This seems to be, according to experts, a week where you can go a little bit crazy. I think a lot of that is to do with the fact we're so close to the end of the season. People want to go big or bust. People want to go for those big moves, really revolutionize their squads to just try and maximize, chase the upside, that kind of thing. That's what people want to do right now. Just 5% of managers not making a transfer this week, which is really low, to be fair. But yeah, like I say, this is a week which is clearly a week to go transfer crazy. So if you feel like you're going a bit crazy, maybe you've got a -4 or a -8 in mind, believe me, guys, you're kind of in the norm right now. This does seem like a week to go a bit mad, which is kind of concerning for me, because I wasn't really thinking about going too mad, but now I'm seeing everyone else is going crazy and just bringing in exactly the players they want. Yeah, it's a wild one. So yeah, go crazy, guys. Bring in some players that you like. We're going to get to the players that you should be bringing in just 1 second. But first of all, let's have a look at the chip usage as well, because this is a very big week. In fact, probably the biggest week in the remainder of the season to be using the chip. It's a huge week for chips, guys. Trust me, you're about to see. So no one's using a wildcard. I think wildcards are pretty much done now. Most of our, well, pretty much all of our experts by this point have used their wildcard already so far this season. You know, that's kind of standard. You don't really want to be leaving your wildcard quite this late. The time has kind of gone by now. But 45% are using the bench boost. So almost half of experts are using bench boost. So if you've got a bench boost right now is probably the time to be using it. I imagine there'll be a few bench boosts next week, but most of them have probably gone by now. But about half of them have that left, and they'll be using it this week. We've got 3% on the triple captain. I know, again, a lot of people have already used their triple captain. I would say arguably the time to use the triple captain has been and gone, but if you still do have it right now for whatever reason, again, it's a pretty good week to be using that. And 7% on a free hit as well. I know there's a lot of debate. When's the best time to use a free hit? Is it this game week? Is it next game week? Could you actually be waiting for game week 38 to use the free hit? I think this game week and next game week are probably the main and final opportunities to use your free hit, but we've got 7% this game week. I imagine there'll probably be slightly more next game week, but that is just pure speculation. But again, 7%, that's a decent enough trend, and that's certainly indication enough that if you feel like you want to use a free hit this week, then that is absolutely fine. And then we've got 45% not using a chip at all. So I'm actually going to fall into this category myself. I've already used all of my chips, so I'm kind of looking at these stats and I'm a little bit frightened. You guys who are also non-chip users, people like me who haven't got a chip left, this is a game week we're probably going to have to just accept. We're going to get get a red arrow, and hopefully we can just survive it the best we can. It's survival game week, I would say, for people not using the chip, but still 45%. It's not exactly no one. That is still almost half of people not using the chip at all this week. So there's not too much concern to be too worried, but yeah, certainly there's going to be a lot of bench boosters, and I've noticed as well that a lot of our bench boosters are taking quite big hits as well. So maybe that could actually benefit people who are not using chips, because they won't have to take as many minuses to get the squad they need. But yeah, there you go, guys. Yeah, 45% on a bench boost. That's probably your main play for this game week, even if it does take a hit or two to get there. So with that said, let's have a look at the trends, the most popular transfers out of the whole of the FPL community. Every single person in FPL. Who is the casual player, I guess, bringing in this week? Well, we've got a similar first place to last week, because last week we did see Gabriel Jesus was top of the list, and again, he is top of the list in terms of the most popular transfers in by all of FPL managers. So this is not the expert transfers, this is the general populace, the 9.2 million or however many FPL players there are these days. These are the players those guys are bringing in the most, 132,000, almost 133,000 for Jesus, so he's way out on top. We've got Nketiah there, Richarlison there, so it seems to be all about the forwards actually at the moment. 3 forwards leading the way, which is kind of interesting. I'd kind of given up on forwards a little bit, but maybe we've got a little bit of a resurgence of the forwards in terms of who people are targeting for their transfers. A few other players there, Alonso, Dennis, Son. Obviously, Son got a really good score last game week, so you can see why, and various other players there. But the real reason we like to look at this list is we want to kind of see if there is any crossover between the general FPL player, the casual FPL player, and the expert FPL player. Is there any crossover in the kind of players that they are targeting? I will tell you guys that every single person you see on this list, every single player, has been transferred in by at least one of our expert FPL managers. But because there were so many transfers being made by expert managers, I am being a little bit harsher than usual here. So I'm going to highlight in green the player and tell you guys the players who have been transferred in by 4 or more of our FPL experts. Because there's just so many transfers being made, I feel like we have to be a little bit harsher. When we're trying to spot trends, we have to look at like the actual players who have been transferred in a lot out of a lot of transfers, if that makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense. Anyway, guys, here are the players who are most popular among our experts: Nketiah, Richarlison, Schmeichel, Watkins, Saka, Foden, and De Bruyne. So quite a lot of them, almost all of them, are being transferred in by, I think, 4 or more. It is 4 or more of our experts. So yeah, that's quite significant. So that's a fairly decent amount of crossover, you'd say there. Nketiah and Richarlison at the top of the casual players targets, and at the top of our experts targets as well, which is really kind of promising to see that we're all kind of on the same page there. There are obviously a few players left on this list that weren't very popular among our experts. Like I say, I am going to be very, very harsh, and I'm going to say the players to avoid out of this list are the players who are only been transferred in by one out of our FPL experts, because they're all transferred in by at least one, but 2 of these players were only transferred in by one person, and one transfer in does not constitute a trend, especially when there are hundreds of transfers that are being made by our expert this week. Honestly, there's hundreds that I've had to kind of document. It's quite crazy. But yeah, there are 2 players, and those players, Jesus and Alonso, each of those players only one transfer in among our experts. So I know it's not no interest. I know it's not, you know, I usually highlight the players in red who are and say I avoid players who have no interest whatsoever among FPL experts. But at the same time, there's just so many transfers going on right now. So Jesus, just one person. Alonso, just one person bringing in each of those 2 players, which is not a trend. It kind of suggests that maybe those players are not the ones to go for out of the main transfer targets, which again, I know it's going to surprise and annoy people again, because the reason why Jesus has got so many transfers in is because a lot of people like him, clearly a lot of casual managers like him. But once again, for the second game week in a row, FPL experts just do not like Gabriel Jesus. They are worried about minutes, they are worried about rotation, and in a double game week, the biggest advantage you can go into a double game week with is a player with minutes. If a player is only going to play one of the 2 games, or maybe even not start either of the 2 games, then you're kind of in a little bit of trouble there, and you may as well have just gone for a single game week player for the same price. So Jesus, his price, the fact that he's probably not going to play both of the double game week games, and the fact that Man City, to be fair, don't have insanely good fixtures. They're okay fixtures, but they're not insanely good. So yeah, I think that's a consideration there. Alonso, I don't think is such a bad shout, but I think, yeah, we know that Chelsea are going to rotate a little bit potentially in the second game against Leeds, especially as they have the FA Cup game after that, so close after that. So a lot of the main Chelsea players are going to get rotated a little bit as well. So I think that's why those guys are not so popular transfers in this week. But there you go. That's your list. Those are the popular players from our experts and the unpopular ones among the most popular players generally. This all makes perfect sense, right, guys? Let's go next and see who our experts are transferring out, because that's what this video is about. The experts, what are they doing? So Armando Broja is top of the list of transfers out. There is actually quite an even spread. Again, I've gone with, I've put on this list players with 4 or more transfers out, because I think when there's this many transfers going on, 4 or more, it probably starts to constitute a trend. Anything less than that, it's just a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I will say, guys, that our experts this week have gone absolutely crazy in terms of so many transfers, so many different strategies, so many different kind of moves, so many differentials, so many bold picks, some really risky picks in there as well. It's gone a bit mad. I think it's a good time to go mad. If you're going to go mad, now is kind of the time as we make that final push with just 3 game weeks left. But yeah, Broja, he is the main player going out. He obviously doesn't have a double game week. He's obviously been badly out of form, and we're seeing him rotated a little bit as well. So Broja is just not really a very good FPL pick at the moment. He's fine if you're just going to leave him on your bench, but with so many people bench boosting as well, he's not really good even as a bench boost option either, which is just not ideal. We've got Weghorst, who doesn't have a double game week this week. Havertz, who I think a lot of people are worried about his minutes. As with Mount, like I was saying a minute ago, Chelsea are expected to rotate quite heavily in their second of the double game week games, as there's just a few days before their FA Cup final. So you know, we've got to consider that, and consider that there might be a bit of Chelsea rotation there. Harry Kane, 14 transfers out. That's pretty significant as well. I don't know how I feel about that one. You never know when Harry Kane is going to get back to his best, and it's just the end of the season. Harry Kane usually absolutely smashes it, but people are obviously trying to move Kane out to try and fund some different moves. So if you are trying to fund a different premium in your team, or trying to spread the cost, spread your value to try and get a bench boost, then maybe Kane is going to be that kind of player that you have to sacrifice. Sa. We have to call him Sa, so don't get confused with the other Sa. Sa, he's been transferred out as a goalkeeper, so a lot of goalkeeper transfers out there as well. We can see Ramsdale at the bottom, a few people taking out goalkeepers as they look to get the ideal bench boost goalkeeper, I guess, maybe, or you know, maybe they're just looking for a double game week goalkeeper if they've been lumbered with Sa or Ramsdale for a while, who hasn't been really performing too well. But there you go. Coutinho, interestingly, is on there as well, I should note. He was like the most transferred in player last game week among experts, and now he's one of the most transferred out players. So it shows how quickly these trends turn around, don't they? So yeah, interesting one there. But yeah, with that said, those are the kind of players you probably are looking to sacrifice this game week. Let's see what kind of players you want to be bringing in according to our experts. So yeah, again, another pretty big list. We've got 15 players here, and this is really, I think, looking at this, this is your watch list for the game week. This is your list of transfer targets for the game week, the players that you want to think about bringing in. And there's 15 of them. I would say if you're going to make 1 transfer, 2 transfers, 3 transfers, even 4 transfers, if you could pick them from this list, I think you can't go too far wrong, because there's a lot of good players here. Now, the popular players, by far the most popular players, are Richarlison and Nketiah, 2 forwards again. These are super, super popular. We know Richarlison has a double game week this week and a double game week next game week as well. So that's really interesting. Richarlison has been in okay form, you know, for a forward. You know, when we talk about forwards, we can only expect so much, I suppose. But for a forward, he's been doing okay. We know he's on penalties. If you look at the next 2 game weeks, the fact that he has 4 games, what are the chances of him getting a penalty across 4 games? Probably a decent chance, to be fair. And it's not just penalties he scores either. He can score from open play as well, as we saw last game week. We've got Nketiah there, who is getting a lot of chances for Arsenal right now. He is expected to start a lot of games between now and the end of the season as well. I think a few people were worried about rotation with Lacazette, but it does look like Nketiah is actually going to be first choice now, particularly as Arsenal are trying to convince him to stay. And the main concern why why Nketiah wants to leave is because he's worried about minutes. So it's going to be that classic thing of giving a player loads of minutes, getting them to sign a contract, and then reducing their minutes, which is a very depressing thing. But if we're talking about FPL and looking at the behind-the-scenes stuff, it does seem like that does make Nketiah a good pick right now. And you never know, he could prove himself and become that Arsenal number 9 permanently. I think he's been doing very well recently, to be fair. So really good pick, particularly for his price. He is really cheap. We've got Gordon there, a nice cheap bench option if you're going for a bench boost. We've got De Bruyne there, a potential differential captain pick. I'm sure you guys will agree. People going for Foden as well. So there's a little bit of Man City bias here, actually. There's quite a lot of Man City players that people are looking to get in. Man City on a double game week is always a very interesting prospect, particularly if we can find someone nailed. So you can see De Bruyne, Foden, Laporte, Diaz is there as well. We've got Cancelo and Edison further down the list. So load up on those City players, guys. Why not? Let's absolutely go for it. And aside from that, there's just generally some other random, pretty decent players there, most of which, in fact, all of which have double game weeks this week. So yeah, make sure if you are making transfers, you're bringing in those double game week players. So those are your main players to be targeting. I'm going to try and suggest some transfer moves. The problem is, when I suggest transfer moves, I'm usually suggesting direct transfer moves, like this player to that player. But I know with a lot of -8s, -12s, even -4s, you're actually going to be moving money around a lot and actually moving money from position to position. So it's quite difficult to suggest direct transfers, but I'm going to try and do it anyway. But really, you're probably going to mix and match a little bit with your transfers, aren't you? But let's try it anyway. Let's suggest some transfers. So a super simple transfer you might consider would be Broja to Nketiah. There's only 0.1 million difference, so it's not, if you have 0.1 million chilling in your bank and you only want to make one transfer, Broja to Nketiah makes a lot of sense. You're sacrificing a single game week player who is not really nailed at the moment, not playing so well at the moment, for a much more nailed player in decent form and playing for a big team with a double game week and a lot to play for. So Broja to Nketiah, 0.1 million difference. You get a lot more player for your money. We can think about Weghorst to Richarlison. I know a lot of people have Weghorst. I know you've got to find a little bit of money in order to do that. But if you can upgrade Weghorst to Richarlison, that is an option. Or you could go Weghorst down to Nketiah potentially as well. But I know Richarlison is the #1 transfer pick really among our experts. So if we can get Richarlison, I think he is probably the preferred option to Nketiah. I've also put down here Kane to Richarlison, and that's a kind of a transfer move you probably pair with another one. So you downgrade Kane to a Richarlison, and then you'd be upgrading someone else in your team, another midfielder in your team, up to maybe a De Bruyne or maybe to a Heung-min Son, for example, if you are looking to remove the cash from Kane and invest in another premium midfielder potentially. Probably going to be a midfielder, to be honest, at this stage of the season. So yeah, those are the kind of suggestions I've got for you in terms of forwards. You know, if you've got a Timo Werner or someone like that, Chris Wood, Alan Maximan, if you've still got those players kicking around your club as well, again, you can transfer these kind of strikers out and bring in an Nketiah or a Richarlison. That would be a pretty good move, I think, for this game week as an individual move. But obviously, if you want to pair it up with another one, fair enough. Let's suggest some others. Okay, so here I've written Havertz/Mount because not too many people have both. Most of us have one or the other, and we're possibly thinking about removing them just because of that rotation that we are expecting during this double game week, because, you know, at the end of the day, we want double game week players, and if a player is only going to play one of the two fixtures, then are they even really a double game week player? I don't know. I think Mount has the potential to play both of those games. Havertz, I have a little bit more doubt about, but if you have a Havertz or a Mount and you want to move them to someone, you could downgrade to Gordon. Again, that would be a good way of removing cash from your midfield to upgrade in another position. So if you're pairing that with another transfer, that would be pretty good. You could do Havertz and Mount to De Bruyne, so that would work pretty well if you are downgrading your Kane to a Richarlison. That would then allow you to move your Havertz or Mount up to a De Bruyne, and you could do a double transfer, something like that. So that could work pretty well if you can afford to do that. Like I say, it's probably going to take you a couple of transfers to do it. Or, and I have put this one here as well, slightly more of a direct transfer. If you have a Havertz or a Mount, if you can move them to a Foden, that could be pretty good as well, because Foden probably more likely to play both games during the double game week, because Man City, assuming they go through in the semi-finals of the Champions League, I'm recording this video before that game takes place, then it doesn't really matter either way, because City won't have any games outside of the Premier League until after the Premier League concludes. Like, this is after tonight. there is no more non-Premier League games that Man City can play. So we will probably expect City to go quite hard as they try and get the #1 spot, just secure that #1 slot in the Premier League before season's end, and also keep their players fit for a potential Champions League final. But I can't speculate on that one yet. But yeah, that's a pretty straightforward move as well that you could potentially make as well if you are thinking that Man City are going to do pretty well at this game week. So yeah, those are some suggested transfers. I don't know how useful they are. I imagine these are a little bit too vanilla. You guys probably want to go a little bit more crazy than these transfers that I've suggested, but you know, do you guys do you. What I can advise you on, however, is captains, because we've got some good data for captains this week. Let's have a look. Okay, our experts, Gameweek 36 captain picks. These are the most popular players. In #1, no surprise, we have got Mo Salah. Mo Salah on a double game week is always a good shout, right? We saw that Salah got rested last game in the Premier League, so that is potentially going to mean that he is just going to go through for the rest of the season and play every single game. He's had his rest. He doesn't have a rest very often, so he's had that rest, so now he's just going to play the rest of the season, hopefully. So that's looking really good in terms of going for a double game week player when you have a very, very good indication that they are going to play both games. Excellent, particularly when they're a player of the quality of Mo Salah. So Tottenham at home, Aston Villa away. Are they the best fixtures in the world? No, not really, but they're pretty good. They're pretty good. They're kind of average, aren't they, really, if you look at them as a whole. But the thing is with Liverpool is they're just so good. They just seem to like beat anyone at the moment. They really do, don't they? So yeah, Salah, by far the most popular captain, 57%. So it's not extraordinary. I mean, we saw earlier on in the season, Salah was often at 90% plus, so 57% actually is pretty low. But that's because I think some people, as we get to the end of the season, people are trying to go a little bit differential and try and get a jump on other people by going for something a little bit different, go for something a little bit more unexpected in hopes that the main captain, which will be Salah, fails. If Salah fails this week and you've gone for a differential, you're going to do really well, but you're going to have to bet on the fact that Salah fails this game week, which I don't know if it's a good bet or not. But De Bruyne, that's not a bad shout, you know. Newcastle at home, Wolves away. Like I said, I don't think these fixtures are incredible. We know Newcastle are a decent team defensively, and although Wolves haven't been their defensive best in very recent weeks, it is an away game as well. You know that Wolves are just going to shut up shop, you know, play very, very deep and maybe cause Man City some problems that way. But, you know, it's Man City. They're obviously going to beat them, aren't they? Really, surely, come on. But yeah, De Bruyne is a very good player to go for there. He's at 17%. So that's a pretty decent amount of people going for De Bruyne. It's definitely enough of a trend where we can look at De Bruyne and say, yeah, that's a pretty good captain shout. As with Cancelo, 7%, that's a pretty decent chunk there as well. Same fixtures as De Bruyne. We probably would say actually that these two fixtures, Newcastle at home, Wolves away, that's a pretty good pair of fixtures for a defender, really. You would expect a decent amount of defenders points. You know, like a 12-pointer is probably the minimum you expect from Cancelo this game week, which is certainly a very, very good score. So can completely understand why some people are having a look at Man City defenders this game week. We've got Saka against Leeds and Spurs. Saka doing pretty well at the moment, getting those goal returns. Son, I know it's a difficult pair of fixtures, but you feel like this is a double game week. These fixtures, Liverpool and Arsenal, you feel like that suits Son, really, don't you? So it looks hard on paper. 4% of people going for Son, taking that risk on a player who's in form and playing against what I would say is a fairly decent pair of matchups there. It could actually really pay off Son there. We've got Trent there as well, Foden, and both of those players at 2%. I think those are slightly more risky. And those of you guys who like your maths probably noticed that these numbers do not add up to 100% because I've got some 1%ers for you. Always got a couple of 1%ers for you. So these are players, the players I'm about to say, there's 5 of them. Each of them were selected as their captain by one person in the 100 this week. So we've got Sadio Mane, we've got Luis Diaz, we've got Ruben Diaz. So 2 Diaz's on the captain's list today. Richarlison, one person going for Richarlison and one person going for Mason Mount as well. All of those guys are a lot more risky other than maybe Mane. If you have Mane, he's probably a pretty good shout, to be fair. Diaz is kind of interesting as well. I mean, you could, I guess, expect a similar thing between Diaz and Cancelo. Maybe get the odd-headed goal. These things happen, don't they? And you've got to be in it to win it. You make your own luck, don't you? But generally speaking, those players are probably not going to be our main captain targets. We're really looking at Salah, De Bruyne, Cancelo, and possibly Saka and Son as well. After that, you are in the territory of big, big risks. But if you guys want to make those risks, go for it. Go for it. Honestly, I love it. I'm all about it. It's the end of the season. Let's have some fun. Okay guys, that is the end of the video. I do apologise, that was a really long one, longer than usual for these 100 experts videos, but like I said, there was just so much to go through today. So yeah, hopefully you find this really useful. I always find these videos useful for trying to figure out what kind of everyone is up to, what is the general thinking among the better minds, the experts, the real engaged managers. What are they thinking in terms of their FPL moves, and what can we learn from them? What can we learn from them? Because it's all about learning. I'm constantly trying to learn more about FPL and learning the right way to go about things. So yeah, I love these videos. Hopefully you do too. If you do, please do leave a like. Massively helps out the channel. Subscribe if you're new around here. That would be absolutely amazing. And what have we got this week left for you guys? Well, okay, I'm going to do a team selection video, obviously, where some of you guys might know my new rank already, but you know, we'll do the big reveal on the new rank, which is pretty good, we'll put it that way. We've got, I think I'm going to do a free hit video, because I know a few of you guys are on a free hit. I want to give you a good idea of what kind of free hit team you can use. And I want to do a general video as well about the players I like for double game week 36, because we looked at the experts, but I kind of want to give my own opinion on some players that I quite like as well. So we'll do that as well. So it's going to be very content jam-packed. It's a very important game week. It's one of the, probably the most important game week between now and the end of the season is this game week. I think there's going to be potential to get some big point swings this week. Probably the biggest opportunity you'll get between now and the end of the season. So we've got to do our research and stuff. So yeah, we've done a very long video. I've done a very long outro as well, apparently. But hopefully you guys did enjoy. And I will see you later, mates. Bye-bye.